So thank you for being here tonight, Wednesday, June 4th, 2025, for Citizens Climate Lobby's Changemakers call. About every 3 to 4 months, these change depending on what is happening. So prior to the election, we actually had election-focused Changemakers calls, so it wasn't this agenda. Right now, we're working on a summer project, a lobbying project called G7 at the Table. By mid-June, July, this call will change and we'll start getting ready for lobbying in the fall. So every 3 to 4 months, this call's change. So feel free to come back at any time. Just had our introductions and we've agreed that we will follow the agenda as outlined here on our agenda page. Oops, sorry, didn't mean to do that. Pressed the wrong button. There we go. So about 7 years ago, we were at Citizens Climate Lobby introduced to this policy simulator. It's an online simulator that provides policymakers, i.e. politicians and their staff, educators, businesses, the media, and the public with the ability to test and explore cross-sector climate policy solutions. It's a state-of-the-art policy simulator. What I'm about to show you is a very brief introduction, and it is not meant to replace the full workshop we highly suggest people engage in. We actually have a whole bunch of On-Roads ambassadors at Citizens Climate Lobby, and they love to share these calls and these workshops, and we have what's called the En-Roads action team. And as you'll learn, we form ad hoc teams based on the interests of our volunteers, and En-Roads is just one of them. So En-Roads is what it is. It allows you to explore dozens of policies at the global level and how they would impact many variables, but for the most part, we'll just stick to 3 variables, as you'll see. And it was developed by Climate Interactive, MIT Sloan, and Ventana Systems. And it's used by the IPCC, the UNFCCC, and many governments around the world. Okay, so these 3 panels across the top, you can change and you can get really granular with this model. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to show you briefly how this works, but if you ever want to explore it more, I encourage you to reach out to me and I'll connect you with our En-Roads team, and they will love to share this with you. So I'm going to keep it as is with these 3 panels at the top, with the global sources of primary energy being 1, and it goes all the way out to 2100, and it has coal, oil, gas, renewables, bioenergy, and nuclear, and net zero. The greenhouse gas emissions, net greenhouse gas, so you can carbon sink here, and then the global temperatures. Currently, we are on track to a 3.3C planet. That may be a bummer to think about, but in 2010, we were on track to a 7.7C planet. And just 4 years ago, we were on track to a 4.5C planet. So we are bringing it down. It's not fast enough, but humans, when we put our mind to it, we can go to the moon. So we can do this too. Okay, so now what you'll see on the bottom are various policies. And let me try to explain this a little bit better. We could look at getting rid of subsidies for coal, oil, or natural gas, or we can fully carbon price them. We can look at maximizing renewables through subsidies, or maximizing nuclear through subsidies, or maximizing new zero carbon technologies. Let's see what happens to the profiles here. We can also, so that mostly works on the energy supply. We could also look at just a full-on carbon price or bioenergy, or we can look at the transportation sector and policies that would impact energy efficiency, electrification, or the buildings and industry, again, same profile, or growth, in both human and economic growth. And then we can look at carbon dioxide removal, and that can be nature-based or technology, and then other sources of greenhouse gas emissions. So what I can do is play with these toggles and we can see what happens to the energy profiles, like what happens to renewables and gas and bioenergy, as you ask me to look at various policies. And we can also see the CO2 go up or down, and the global temperatures go up or down all the way out to 2100. So is there any policy that is dear to your heart or that you are curious about that you would like me to just maximize? I'm not going to get super granular with this. This is not the workshop. I just was wondering if there's any policy that you would like for me to play with here.
In terms of policies, Kathy, like, can you kind of fidget with that coal scale there?
The coal? Okay, play with the
Yeah,
coal.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so so if we removed all coal subsidies, and you're gonna have to trust me on this one, I had an expert show me just to move this toggle a little bit. We got rid of all coal subsidies at this point.
Right.
It wouldn't do barely anything to global temperatures. The world is weaning off of
Mm.
coal just naturally, but if we maximize the price on it, like we put a high tax on it, it would still pull down the temperatures 0.2 degrees.
Wow.
Yeah, just 0.2. So we'll put that back. It's great.
What is meant by new zero carbon?
That's a really good one. So those are other technologies that are being developed. So yeah, like let's say like algae, stuff like that. The algae fuel, stuff like that, or
Hydrogen.
the blue hydrogen, or okay. So I will maximize it. So let's highly subsidize it, and with current technologies that aren't renewable or nuclear and all the other ones, we can maximize it. And even if we had a huge breakthrough, it would only bring it down 0.1 given the current trajectory. And in fact, if you subsidize nuclear, renewables, and all of them together, it only brings it down 0.2, because basically more energy you put into the
Uh,
system, the more energy people consume. Okay, sorry.
is sorry, Kathy. Is the idea like because let's say oil and nuclear are adjacent, so if nuclear goes up, oil goes down? Is that the idea behind this? Or are these just randomly next to each other?
Yeah, no, if you subsidize energy, like the renewables or new zero, without any sort of, if you, without any sort of stick to stop fossil fuels from being burned, you just put more
Okay,
energy into the system and it really doesn't displace them all that much.
okay,
The more
yeah.
energy we put into the system, the more energy people burn.
So there's not like a kind of um relationship between new zero carbons and natural gas then.
What do you mean by that, Alan? That's a good question. I'm trying to figure it out.
Sorry, so what I mean is like if you increase new zero carbon, right, would that automatically mean natural gas would be reduced? Or is that the idea or thinking behind it?
It a little bit would be, but not a lot, because as you put in more energy into the system, more energy will be consumed. So with this is a
Yeah, yeah,
stick,
yeah.
but you need a, this is a carrot, but you need a stick.
Gotcha.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Great. So other policies that you love? Anybody nature-based or tree lovers here into the biological solutions? Anyone?
What's deforestation?
Deforestation? Okay, so if we stop deforestation, this one was crushing for me because I'm a biologist by training and I live in the boreal forest. Okay, ready? 0.1 degrees.
Not bad.
Because nothing to stop the burning of fossil fuels. That's about 85% of the greenhouse gas emissions comes from burning fossil fuels. Now, it's really important to stop deforestation for biodiversity, for local cooling, or cleaning water, like for a whole bunch of other reasons. If your primary concern is the climate crisis, um, this is important and certainly should be one of the tools, but it's not a heavy lifter. Any other policies? Which policy here do you think would really decrease emissions?
That's what I was trying to think.
Agricultural emissions probably would decrease it a bit.
Yeah, agriculture are a big chunk, but just point one. And even
What
if we
about
like,
population?
Yeah, population would do it.
yeah, population. Ugh, I don't know what kind of policy you would make to slow
Yeah,
down.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but point
Dangerous
one. Actually,
territory here.
well, the number one way to slow down population growth is empower women, give them socially appropriate birth control, educate
Yeah.
them and their daughters, and let them participate in the economy. And we tend to have a lot less children. That's the way to decrease population growth. 'Cause it's hard to have a great job and an exciting life and a huge family at the same time, unless you're rich. And most of us aren't. So there we go. You know what? Watch what happens. We have been fighting for a price on pollution since our very beginnings. Watch what happens when we maximize it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, wow. That's why. Without the stick, it's very hard to get to a 1.5C planet. But as you can see, we can't get to a 1.5C planet without with carbon pricing alone. So yeah, we do have to have highly directed subsidies to renewables, make sure that, they go to communities that need them. We need lots of energy efficiency in our transport, again, directed. Definitely need to work on those agriculture emissions and the nature-based solutions and the deforestation. And you know what? We've got to close those loops within our, waste and leakage. You know what? It's going to be really hard to get to a 1.5C planet without some carbon dioxide removal. I'm not going to touch population or economic growth, but, let's like electrify transport a bit more and maybe some new net zero. Oh, nope, still got to do some other things. But, energy efficiency really is always really important. There we go. So really hard to get to a 1.5C planet without a carbon price. And this is why we fight so hard to have pollution price for the last 15 years in Canada. Did that help you see it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see your eyes go and your eyebrows raising. Thank you. I felt heard. This is great. Thank you. Okay. So if you ever want to learn more about this, we do have a team that you can reach out to me and I can connect you with them, and I'm sure they'd love to do a workshop for you or for the group, arrange something. They're always looking for a place to teach. They're kind of like musicians and dancers. They need an audience, right? And so they would love to have an audience. They love the work they do. So, or you can actually be trained to be an ambassador here. It's all free. I've done the training. I didn't do the tests because that was about 40 hours of work, but I did go to all the training sessions. So I know a lot about this thing, and I know the president of the company. He's really cool. But I just don't have time to do the tests. So anyways, great. This is great. And if you want to know even more, there's a Canadian specific one. It's at the Pembina simulator as well. So we can look at what happens in Canada by tweaking policies in Canada as well. But that's way beyond the scope of this. But if you ever want to learn more about that, we can also introduce you to that. So a wealth of information out there, and we love to tap into it. Okay, so the next thing I like to do is to go to our website. So just to be clear, we are canada.citizensclimatelobby.org online. This is our website. We've had a website since our very beginnings in 2010. This is us in 2018. There's Mary Blake, see who's here? There's myself. Anyways, we were just about to find out that Canada was going to enact a price on pollution with the money going back to the people, which is something we fought very hard for. We were very excited. By the end of 2018, we had lobbied over 900 times for your dividend check, providing the best information to the government. And yes, we know it was taken away, but not through with less than with the way they did it did not involve integrity. It involved a lot of lies on the internet. Okay. Anyways, okay. So this is our website, and you can find out more about us by toggling along across the top. But like I said, you can always tell what we're up to. This summer, we're going to be heavily promoting this Protect Canada digital campaign. Actually, right now we're going to be promoting a digital campaign that goes directly to the parliamentary office, and I won't talk about that tonight, but yeah, I will actually in a few minutes. It shows you, if you ever want to come back to our Changemakers hour, it's right on our homepage here. We write letter to the editor and media workshops every single Wednesday night as well after this call. And every single month we have what are called action sheets. And we give our volunteer leaders actions to do. So our actions this month are, why am I lobbying? It's a video campaign. And that's just, our experienced volunteers are going to create short little videos for us to empower people to lobby, because lobbying is so much fun. It is. Citizen lobbying is great. And it's to help promote our conference in October. We're going to Ottawa to lobby. We only ask for money once a year, and it's right now. So we're doing our Mother's Day to Father's Day fundraiser. And we also have this action that I'll talk about at the end called G7 at the Table. And then we have a very quick action that you can consider doing tonight. So I'm going to click on it. So you may often see like petitions or letters from Eco-Justice or Greenpeace or Stand or many organizations to sign, and then those letters get sent to your MPs or the Prime Minister. But Canada in 2015 developed what's called a parliamentary e-petition. So people can create petitions that go directly to the House of Commons. Okay, and they have to be read in the House of Commons. And those other campaigns are important for building political will locally. They're like little mosquito bites to remind your MP that you do care about an issue. But this one is like a bee sting because it has to be read in the House of Commons. And there has to be an answer to it as well. So currently there is a parliamentary e-petition that is of interest to us. Because our solution to climate change is democracy. And we know that democracy is threatened right now. So right now in the House of Commons, this petition is, well, earlier today was closing in on 10,000 signatures, and it's a 1-month petition, and I'm putting it in the chat, is basically dealing with foreign interference. And it's calling on the government of Canada to do 2 things. Well, so in any petition, the language of it always starts off as whereas, and then what we want to do. So the whereases are like the reasons why we want them to do something is, whereas the national security is fundamental concern for all Canadians and public confidence in the integrity of political leaders is essential to a functioning democracy. Recent events have raised legitimate concerns about foreign influence and potential security risks within Canadian political parties, requiring urgent and proactive safeguards. Transparency and accountability in assessing political candidates and party leaders are crucial to ensuring those who seek to govern are acting in the best interests of Canada and its people. Do you know who I'm talking about right now? Anyways, we can talk about it later. We, the undersigned, citizens and residents of Canada, call upon the House of Commons to direct appropriate national security and intelligence agency to conduct a comprehensive review of potential security risks associated with political leadership in Canada, ensuring all candidates for party leaderships and high office undergo security vetting, and develop and implement mechanisms to enhance transparency in the vetting process of political candidates, increasing public confidence while maintaining legal and privacy protections. and strengthen national safeguards against foreign interference in Canadian democratic institutions, and commit to ensuring that all elected officials meet the highest standards of integrity, accountability, and national loyalty. So this one was right up our alley, and we are asking our volunteers to not only sign it, but to help promote it. And just get people making that connection between democracy, foreign interference, and the climate crisis, which are very tightly woven. So I've already signed it, but so when you sign it, there's 2 steps to it. You sign it, you got to put all this information in here and then check it, and then you have to click on a confirmation email as well. Okay, a lot of people miss the second step. So it takes about 5 to 10 minutes. Some people have told me it's taken like a day too, so sorry, but sometimes that does happen, but usually within 5 to 10 minutes, you do get a confirmation email. So that is our digital action this month that we think is worthy of people doing. Do you have any questions about this parliamentary e-petition? Have you ever seen one before? Anything, just shoot away.
Do we create ourselves, like not we like as individuals, but like the Citizens Climate Lobby?
Yeah, we've created 3 of our own parliamentary e-petitions and have been successful at getting signatures. And we also create parliament petitions that are actually paper ones that are read in the House of Commons. These ones require at least 500 signatures in order to get read in the House of Commons, and that's a lot of work. The paper ones that we create, you only need 25 signatures, and they will be read in the House of Commons. So, and we have a whole section of our website dedicated to that. So anytime somebody wants to create a parliamentary petition, we can coach you. As for parliamentary e-petitions, it's a heavy lift. This is not our petition to do this one. This one is not our petition, but I saw it and I thought it was worthy for us to support. But yes, we do create them, and we have a process for the e-petitions, and for the paper ones. Did that answer your question, Emma?
Yeah.
Great. It was a great question. Anyone else? Okay. All right. So back to our action sheets. Okay. So like I said, we have these action sheets, and another thing that we do is every single month, we also give what are called laser talks. So these are short talking points, usually around 300 words. Sometimes they have to be longer because things can get pretty wonky. And we usually have like a takeaway version and a full version. And our 2 laser talks this month are on carbon capture and sequestration, and then on methane. Because Canada is wanting to be an energy superpower, so we want to give you a little bit more guidelines on what we know to be true. So I'm just going to read the takeaways for both of them, but every single month our volunteers get a couple of these to mull over, and in September and usually February we give them a whole booklet, and I'll show you those on our website. So CCL Canada's position on carbon capture and sequestration, building new fossil fuel infrastructure on the premise that carbon capture and sequestration will be able to sink the emissions would be disastrous for the climate, energy costs, and our financial system. Well, as a rule of thumb at Citizens Climate Lobby does not oppose or support any specific technologies, it should be noted that previous studies have found that without adequate carbon pricing, carbon capture and sequestration deployed at the scale required to meet climate targets is unlikely. And then this gives a lot more information. Like then you can read into it that we're not just like, pulling at, unicorns out of the air. We actually have data to back up what we say. So that's the short end, and then I won't read the long end. And similarly, we have something for methane emissions in the oil and gas industry. After carbon pricing, Methane regulations are the most effective public policy to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in Canada. Okay. A great new report from the Pembina Institute shows that despite increasing gas production by 67%, BC was able to meet its aggressive methane reduction goals 2 years early, thanks to setting clear targets and using robust, transparent data to verify their emissions reductions. The federal government needs to follow suit and work quickly to pass the much delayed federal methane regulations in order to meet our 2030 targets. So that is going to be one of the things that we are going to lobby for. It's not my decision, it's the group's decision, and next week the group will be determining that. And I won't go into the details, but this really digs down into it. And we also have, oh yes, he's got the psychology of climate action, like how to talk about it. So we're always looking at what's the latest data shows us how to talk about climate, and I won't go into the details, but so every single month, just once a month, our volunteers get these things called action sheets, and we review them. And yeah, and you know, at first it can be overwhelming. You'd be like, how am I gonna learn all this? I remember when I first was learning, cried a little bit because it was so overwhelming. But after about 6 months, I got really used to it. So it's okay. Yeah, and it's actually fun. And the first time you ever lobby is like the best ever. When you really do lobby, oh my God, it's addictive, just telling you. Okay, so every single month, usually right at the beginning, we post our monthly actions and laser talks. And if you ever want to look at the old ones, we actually have all of them, you know, on a running tally going. Okay, and as I said, there's also laser talks booklets right here, and you can actually click on them. And they're a compilation. We take time to update them and make them, make it like a one-stop place, a booklet that you can review. Just, you know, actually I recommend you print them and put them in your bathroom. Okay? Okay.
Kathy, who writes these booklets?
Mark is in charge of curating them now, but we have,
Okay,
like, that means Mark is another part-time employee at Citizens Climate Lobby Canada. We together, Mary Blake, Mark, and I do most of the writing of these laser talks. And they're already like, most of them are having to be tweaked over time as we get new data. And who writes the booklets? Mark and myself mostly. But and then other people also contribute laser talks as well as what they, you know, see as are important. And we've been giving laser talks for 15 years. So this is really like,
oh wow.
well, wow, it's really part of how we work. We give 2 or 3 actions every month with some laser talks to go with it. And we also provide training for when you lobby. Like you're not left to your own devices. You're part of like basically an educational team and an empowered team of volunteers that will support you on your journey to become an effective citizen lobbyist. Great question.
Okay.
Anybody else? Okay, so you can.
Would you, sorry, Kathy,
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. Keep going.
like if I wanted to learn how you put these together, would that be something you'd be willing to kind of teach?
Oh, yeah, like
The
you can.
booklets and that?
Yeah, so Mark will be, one of the jobs Mark has this summer is to, by September, put together our September laser talk booklet.
Okay.
Okay, and you're thinking, why September? Okay, so you're from Ireland. I don't know how it is in Ireland, but the real
Right.
New Year's Day in Canada is Labor Day. It's not January 1st, okay?
I
Most
didn't
people,
know that.
most people like mentally hit the reset button the day after Labor Day. So you know, we just say, hey, here you go. I know you want to be a climate activist, so here's a great booklet to start, you know, hunkering down and learning about it. So we prepare, and we also relax a little bit more in the summer so we can do this curating and updating. So if you want to do that, Mary Blake can connect you with Mark, and you can be part of the Laser Talks team. As you'll see that we have many ad hoc teams to keep this organization well-oiled, and we love to increase institutional wisdom. Like that's part of what we need, that we do to keep this organization robust. The more people who
Yeah,
understand and are part of the teams, if somebody falls sick, somebody else can pull up the slack, right?
fantastic.
Wonderful. Okay, any other great questions? This is a wonderful call. I think I might actually post it. Keep it up. It's really good. Okay, so this, I'm going to get to G7 at the table shortly. And then always at the bottom are what we're up to. This will be updated a lot this week because tomorrow, as soon as Doug Ford announces on World Environment Day, that he's basically going to ignore environmental rights and Indigenous rights. They're going to put a media release on here for Ontario. Mary Blake, we're not going to send it out to the whole membership like we normally do because it'll just be for Ontario. And we're also going to put the laser talks there as well. So you'll see that bees. Oh, it stings what's happening. Okay, so you can always tell what we're up to here. So this is the homepage of our website. Everything is here that you need. Yeah, okay, cool. So back to here. Oh yes, the volunteer manual. So lastly, and it gets a bit dizzying. I'm only going to briefly introduce it to you. Also on the homepage of our website is our volunteer handbook. It was built last year by a team who put this together. Like it's amazing. So they made a team of volunteers wanted to make sure new volunteers had a great idea of how we worked. So they put together this volunteer handbook. Includes about who we are. Sorry, I just got to move this. So I want to take a moment just to briefly introduce you to our founder. His name was Marshall Saunders. And what he knew what was needed is thousands of ordinary people organized, lobbying with one voice, one message, lobbying in a relentless, unstoppable, yet friendly and respectful way. He was so proud of his Canadian colleagues. He's US American. I met him 15 years ago, right about now. Yeah, right about now in Nashville, Tennessee, at an Al Gore subsequent training session. And I was blessed to be I was in a room of 1,500 people, and I was so fortunate enough to be put in a small group session with Marshall Saunders, like 8 people. And, I could tell right away that he was a very special person. Like he hummed with a whole different level of energy. And he asked me to join Citizens Climate Lobby thinking I was US American because I don't know about you, but when I go to Nashville or Texas, my American accent kicks in. I don't know what happens. I grew up in Niagara Falls and my best friend was from Niagara Falls, New York. And anyways, he thought I was American, recruited me, and CCL Canada was born. And he's just the most generous human being. And this organization is magical, and it's Marshall. We owe it to Marshall. I miss him immensely. And like I said, our solution to climate change is democracy. This is, we did a smudging on Parliament Hill and then built a giant dream catcher with an Indigenous artist. And we've done that twice, and we hope to do it one more time next year. So we're working on that. And like I said earlier, we got what we lobbied for in 2018, 939 lobbying sessions between 2010 and 2018. Those were all citizen lobbyists, unpaid, did that work. And then this goes into why carbon pricing. But I just want to blast through it a little bit more. If you are trained with us and you do the lobbying training, we go into deep detail about how we work and stuff like that, but I just wanted to show you a couple more things. All right, so we do track everything that we do. It's called the Action Tracker. I just wanted to show you like what our volunteers have been up to, and I haven't looked up what's up to date so far, so actually we're a week behind. Our lobbying is down, and that's because we've had an Ontario election and a federal election. Our contact legislature may look like it's down, but that's because we haven't run a digital campaign so far this year, a big one. So that's why that's down. But you can see like our media publications are, sorry about that, it keeps changing the page for me there. Everything seems to be like going along just great. And our outreach is up, and our grass tops outreach, that is like engaging with like think tanks and all sorts of decision makers, is like almost as much as last year already, because we're very much in a research mode. Our volunteers are doing tons of like outreach development. So amazing work being done by your colleagues this year. And yeah, I gotta go back to the volunteer manual, sorry. There we go. Did I lose it? Oh, I did lose it. Sorry about that. There we go. So we track everything. And like I said, we have national action teams. So every now and then we have like open letters to the government, and we get people to, sign on to them. That's our climate policy endorsement letter. Tons of teams, and yes, there is a Laser Talks team. So I hope you can join that, Alan, and Mary Blake can get you on board for that. We've just got our Leave Behind team. They've been working on what we'll be lobbying for. And like I said, every single month, same thing. Beginning of the month, we send out the action sheets, and then our leaders meet on a call. There's 2 calls that they can choose from. They're called catch-up calls, and they're on the Thursday or Friday before the second Saturday of each month, and we share reports from the field, and then we discuss actions and get up to date. And this is our yearly rhythm. This year, every January for the last 5 years, we have an annual planning session where our volunteers, are really gifted and empowered volunteers, give us the best advice ever on what we should be doing. We did some nonpartisan advocacy pre-election, and then of course we worked really hard during the national election. That's what a lot of that outreach was. And then we're doing this action called G7 at the Table. We introduced it in May, and it'll be running May, June, and July. And then in July, we slow down, but people still work. It's crazy, like they love to work, but we don't make it so imposing. And then in September and October, we get ready for our national lobbying conference days, and then we reflect post-conference, as well as we have to look closely at what's happening at the COPs. Which the Conference of the Parties to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, and it'll be COP number 30. I went to the COPs between 2017 and 2023. I've been to them and there. And lastly, Citizens Climate Lobby has taught me one powerful lesson, according to Cheryl McNamara, who's been with us since 2010, and she's still with us. A small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can indeed change the world. It doesn't have to be a huge movement. We can indeed change the world. You're what the politicians need. So that's our volunteer manual. And any questions before I quickly introduce you to G7 at the Table?
Is the manual available on the actual website, Kathy, is it?
Yep, it's right on the
I have it.
page. Yeah, everything is here. So this little square here where it's right there. I don't know if you can see it. So just looking at where the monthly actions and laser talks are, it's actually embedded into that section as well.
Okay, thank you.
And I can give you the URL if you want it, or Mary Blake can share it, or any other questions? Okay. So lobbying is in our name, but really, I don't know if we should call it what we do, lobbying. What do you think, Mary Blake? It's what do you think?
I mean, I've always gotten mixed responses to the word lobbying. I really like it, but some people think that it makes it sound like we're paid to advocate on behalf of a special interest group. So,
Yes, we're lobbyists who are not paid to advocate on behalf of a special interest group. and it's a little bit more than lobbying too. It's relationship building. It's building political will locally. It's doing something that humans and communities have done since the dawn of time.
We
Is
have to reclaim the word, Teddy.
Yeah, we've been doing that for 15 years, getting that word lobbying. Okay, so we build relationships with our MPs, and we are in the most chaotic time ever. I mean, Donald Trump imposed that tariff last night. You know, there's a moving target. So we have decided that our first lobbying endeavor is to, with our newly elected MPs, is actually to ask them to go out for a meal. And I bet you, Emma, your group will be lobbying Nathaniel Erskine Smith for sure. So got to get you connected to them. To not so much lobby them, but sit down and talk about the G7. Canada is the host of the president of the G7. It's the 50th anniversary of the G7. It's also the 25th anniversary of the Jubilee, and that is when debt cancellation occurs. Like, I actually got to add this to our talking points, Mary Blake, which is really cool. And it's also the 15th anniversary of the G8, G20 riots that took place in Canada in 2010. So it's a big year. We are the hosts, and you're like, but how can Canada, like, what is the big deal about the G7? This is where we can get a little bit of leverage, a little bit of media attention, and we can also counter what Putin and Trump are trying to do. Putin and Trump are trying to disable the multilateral institutions the world has built since World War II to create a world that honors human rights and democracy. So this is to counter that, as well as build this relationship with our MP. This is bigger than I thought it would be. So we've developed this placemat, and we want our MPs to know that we support multilateralism. We want them to know that our starting point is that respect for all human rights is a must-have and not a nice-to-have. That's what we expect from the G7. And that democracy thrives on meaningful civic engagement and robust free press. We want them to know that. And all financial, social, and environmental injustices, past, present, and future, must be addressed now. So it's all intertwined. So these were 4 things we wanted our MPs to know that are very important to us. And we're encouraging, now empowering our volunteers to invite their MPs out for a meal, whether that be breakfast, lunch, coffee, whatever. And I won't go into the details, but there is opportunities to get more training. This is not a training session. You invite your MPs, there's all that in there, and then here's your agenda. At Citizens Climate Lobby, we always do introductions, which includes an appreciation, and stuff like that. And we keep things casual until when you're starting a meal, everybody's got to get their food and, settle into their food. And there's always seems to be a point in the meal when you can start talking, right? So keep things casual and then agree at what point in the meal you should go on to the official agenda. And we always start with appreciation of our MPs and congratulations. As you learn to lobby with us, you'll realize we don't argue. We ask lots of questions because we're trying to find common ground. And be sure to have printed copies of the placemats to focus and visually cue your conversations, and take pictures throughout the meal, and then ask if we can share it with the media. And there's like all sorts of information behind this, but ultimately we want to know from our MPs 3 questions. What are your priorities for Canada at the G7? What are your party's priorities? And how can we work together? How can we help our MPs advance climate action in Canada? That's it. It's nothing complicated. We're not trying to solve climate crisis in one meeting. What we're doing is building a relationship, trusting and meaningful with our members of parliament. And we're using the G7 as a jumping off point, but we also hope to get some media attention, and we're hoping 5 members of parliament will take up our invitation. And as soon as we get that critical mass, we're going to put out a media release saying that we've had these wonderful conversations about the G7. And yes, the G7 presidency the leaders are meeting next week, but there will be should be subsequent environmental G7 or energy G7. So it's still relevant to keep talking about climate and energy even after the president's meetings. Okay? So that's it. I hope, Emma, I know the Beaches East York will be doing it, and I'm sure Mary Blake is like figuring it out with her group in London. So Alan, it looks like you got a pretty good chance of also your first experience will be G7 at the
I'm
table.
loving it.
Yeah, with highly experienced people who know what they're doing. Yeah, and so, and you can, and this is like what whatever, there's more details, but if you need more training or anything, we're available, and there's also the resource right on our website. So that is us. So what are you thinking?
Very exciting.
Okay. We have a call at 9 o'clock in 1 minute. Emma, I will connect you to the group in Beaches East York. Also, think about, pay attention to anything from the Can Vancouver as well if you're interested. No pressure. And Alan, you've got Mary Blake, so I think we're cool. Wonderful call.
Really nice meeting everyone, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.